Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the broadcast here for Fast Break here for High Sports Radio, your forward sports. Locke, the NCAA Tournament is here, but we got a lot of stuff to talk into tonight, including Bam Adebayo going off and passing Kobe Bryant. What are your thoughts, real quick, of the tournament brackets as they've been released?
Well, I thank God that my Florida Gators still got that number one seed after a tough loss to Miami. But they do got a matchup again with them later on in that bracket. So, but pretty sure I'm not surprised with a lot of stuff. So we kind of see how this bracket goes. So obviously, at some point, we'll break down our picks. Who's going to be that Final Four?
Yeah, we're going to break down the regions: East, West, South, Midwest. Like I said, Bam Adebayo, talk about that. If we can squeeze that in. Mass and gas pop in and out, talk about the bracket. So a loaded show tonight here on Fast Break here for High Sports Radio, your forward sports. And we catch you on the other side of things after these short messages.
Hi, eSports Radio fans. This show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Rise and shine. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon, but it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clinking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. IE Sports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, take part in your iron therapy, and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, there's no telling how far you'll go.
And welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in with us here tonight on a very, very loaded show here on Fast Break here for IE Sports Radio, your forward sports. Shout out to our sponsors. Thank you for them for keep things well lit on the internet, interscapes, all that. D-Locke, missed last week. How you doing tonight, sir?
Doing good. Good to be back. Get more busy. It was a lot of good games that has happened in the past, couple of days. get into this tournament also too. You have the SEC tournament going on, or conference tournament. Conference tournaments going on. I did see a lot of coaches actually get let go at the end of the season as well for college basketball. So these athletic directors are making their decision on those things, and then some are making it by getting into the tournament. So I think that's job what John Capel has done here, University of Pittsburgh. I think him getting into the tournament or getting into the ACC tournament gave him a chance to get an extension of another year. So, but good games going on. I think a tough one for Florida to lose to Vandy, but probably needed to get ready for that final March Madness. So, but the bracket is here now. But even with college basketball going well, doing what it was doing, we had a hell of a game by Bam this week to keep the NBA talk going.
Yeah, normally, D-Lock, we, got the Sunday night game on NBC. You got the Knicks and Warriors, in which the Warriors got a depleted roster right now with injuries, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So normally we check in on that, but since Steph ain't playing, all that good stuff, we're gonna just kind of bypass that right now for tonight. But a lot of stuff to get into, like I said, Bam Adebayo, we got to touch on that. 83 points. Was it legit? People questioning it, like a conspiracy theory, all that stuff. So we're going to dive into that later on the show. But D-Lock, the NCAA tournament is here after a very long season, and up and down season, depending who you like, root for, all that stuff. As us, as SEC fans, our two teams made the tournament in Alabama and Florida.
Right.
Other teams who were kind of hanging on to that thread, like Auburn Tigers, this close, but some reason they still had y'all kind of waiting there, and it didn't happen. It didn't happen because y'all had a suck February. That's why. But anyways, so Stephen Pearl, first year as a head coach, didn't make it. Oklahoma, didn't make it. San Diego State, kind of like it being like a darling in the tournament for past years, didn't make it. So we're gonna dive into all that good stuff, D-Lock. But first, we're gonna probably have a myriad of folks to join the show tonight. And one we're gonna bring up to the stage right now is one Freddie B.
Hey.
How you doing tonight, sir?
I'm good, guys. Just excited for this NCAA tournament, man. How about you guys?
We're excited. I'm glad it's finally here because the season, as both SEC fans, it can be long.
It was a really long just season in general for college basketball. I think it wasn't really dominated by anyone in particular. Duke had a really good run. Arizona had a good run at times. Florida with a really good run at times. And I think that they're all deserving of the number one seeds that they got. But I think this tournament is legitimately up for grabs.
Yeah, it's up for grabs. And, you mentioned about the long season. We talked early in the year, and D-Lock, I mentioned this in text form around Thanksgiving, the players tournament. Staying up late, midnight, whatever, trying to watch a basketball game till 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, that don't work.
Nah.
And, you talking about long season, that right there, and then the late games, all that stuff, and then the conference, how big the conferences are now. You things out, all that good stuff. It's kind of like a trek right now, but we're finally here. The tournament's here. A lot of teams gone out the way. But gentlemen, let's get to it. Duke is number one overall seed, placed in the East region. D-Lock, I'll let you go first. Were you surprised Duke being placed number one overall?
Not really. I mean, they had a hell of a season, right? We see how many good runs that they had. I think the biggest thing is they had a few losses, but 32-2 is deserves to have that number one seed, right? And they had a lot of key victories. So now, them rewarded number one is a good thing. Now we always see those number one seeds. Sometimes they go to the tournament and they could peak out could have peaked out already. So that's the biggest thing is this Duke team going to be to the point now where I love about this tournament, it's only one game.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't have a bad game. You know, like if you start to have a bad game or that first half is kind of rough, you gotta get back up there. So I don't think that'll be an issue for this Duke team. But them being number one, I'm not surprised at all.
Freddie, I'll let you speak. Your thoughts on Duke being the number one overall seed placed in the East region?
I watched them do good things in that ACC tournament. You know, they beat Virginia in the championship game, but Duke looked really good. Didn't really show any signs of weaknesses, you know, and Cam Boozer can lead any team to a national title. Looking at the bracket, I think the East is probably the easiest road for a number one team to get through. I mean, you got UConn at number 2. It's always scary when you have Michigan State in a bracket with you as well, because we know what they do every year. Tom Izzo just can pull, you know, a rabbit out of his hat. You also have Kansas in there as a 4. Kansas, you know, off season for them, but I think this is, if Duke can play their style of basketball, they should get through this, I think, and make it to the Final Four.
I think with Duke, I'd say like this, you know, from the beginning of the year to now, they've been one of the consistent teams. The top 4 teams, as we're going to discuss the number one overall seeds, they've been consistent all year.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And there's no arguing about it. You know, they kind of fluctuate in between the polls, all that, you know, but, you know, Duke consistent, Michigan consistent. But I think, you know, Duke, I think they just kind of play hard. They play great. They lean on Boozer most of the way. And I think, you know, all said and done, maybe player of the year, you know, come award time. Mm-hmm. But John Shire, since he's taken over for Mike Krzyzewski, he has done a great job. He's kept the train rolling. You know, no hiccups, no nothing. You know, the recruiting class is still coming in. So, you know, so far so good post Krzyzewski era that Duke is back on top and people are talking about them in a great light. But let's talk about the other one number overseas real quick. Arizona leads the West, Michigan leads the Midwest, and Florida tops the South. Freddie, your thoughts on the remaining number one overall seeds going to the tournament?
Arizona as a number one, they did win the tournament for the Big 12 championship, so they deserve that number one seed. But they aren't as, I don't think they're deserving of a number one overall, to be honest with you. I particularly thought Iowa State was a better team. Unfortunately, they just couldn't get the best of Arizona every time they played them. But I mean, Michigan, to me right now, what weaknesses do the Wolverines have? I think they played fantastic. They beat, you know, Purdue. They can get through those conference games. Illinois was a tough one as well.
Yes,
for Michigan. I don't know. I mean, Florida, you know, reigning national champs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they've got the pedigree to get back to that spot. I think of all the number ones, I think Arizona is probably the weakest, definitely. And I'd like to see what Michigan could do.
D-Lock, I'll let you go next. Your thoughts on the remaining 3 number one seeds?
I actually think Arizona's a pretty solid. Looking through their schedule, they didn't do too bad. But again, they're, like you said, Ohio State, I think, was deserving also, in my opinion. I think Michigan, that's one of those teams that they get in the tournament. They have that history, right? They get in the tournament, like you said, about Michigan State, all these others. This is probably a team you don't want to see in that bracket because they're going to be cooking, right? It's about peaking, as we know in a lot of sports. I always tell you, Davidson, I thought peaking as an athlete, I used to think peaking was just as like a track and field, right? No, that's in every sport. There are teams that peak entirely too early, you know, early in the season, or sometimes they peak later. Michigan is one of them that knows when to peak. Michigan State, we don't see them cook very early. They may look kind of inconsistent, but then when it's tournament time, they turn it on, right? This may sound a little different than what was expected, but I am a little surprised that Florida got that number 1 seed.
So who you think your Gator? I mean, who should be in place instead of your Gators?
I think Ohio State is a team that played well. Houston wasn't bad, right? But my thing is that loss to Vandy. I think they're still deserving, but that loss to Vandy kind of had me think, okay, it brought them down to earth, right? It brought you down, like, hey, listen, y'all. Then they were on the roll through the SEC. I mean, they were beating teams like just easily, it seemed like. But then I'm looking at my ESPN notification. Okay, Vandy in Florida. I know. I'm saying, all right, this is gonna be an easy ass whooping in my opinion. I go back and I'm getting notifications. Looking at it, I'm like, whoa. So to me, thanks still deserving. I just that loss to Vandy kind of raised the eyebrows a little bit. You know, it makes you think. So now, in my opinion, I think that's something that they needed heading into the tournament.
I think you're right. I agree with you on that. Florida was on like an 18-1 record.
Yes.
Leading up to that game against Vandy. So I think they already had the number 1 slot locked up, regardless of whether or not they beat Vanderbilt. There's never a time for a good loss, but I think this is a perfect opportunity to take this and then, go into the tournament with that same mentality that you had during the regular season run throughout the SEC. I mean, Florida, dominant. The record, 26-7, a little bit more losses than we've seen out of a Florida team over the past few years. But the run that they can go on, and they can easily go through this bracket as well. I think theirs is pretty tough. You got Nebraska in there, North Carolina, Illinois, and Houston. We're all solid teams. North Carolina playing pretty good leading up to this tournament as well. It's not going to be an easy road for the Gators to repeat. That's for sure.
I'll finish up with this. Arizona, I think they're deserving. They've been one of the consistent teams all year. Koa Pete, who started off real hot in the beginning of the year and kind of really cooled down come conference play and whatnot. So hopefully if Arizona's going to win the championship, he's got to get going and hot again. They're lucky for them, guys like Jaden Bradley, Burry's kind of helped shoulder that load, towards the in this run, especially Jaden Bradley, who helped seal the win for the Big 12 title this past weekend. Florida, I think, like y'all said, I like Todd Golden as the coach. I think one thing that may hick them up along the way is probably him. I think it's how he acting on the sidelines, stuff like that during the SEC tournament. Hopefully, in certain situations, it don't bite them in the butt. Sometimes we see that with Dan Hurley, how he acts on the sideline, stuff like that, just being abrasive, just about to bust out his suit on calls, all that stuff. Yeah. But at times, he could be his own worst enemy. Just go back to the end of regular season against the loss against Marquette. Granted, I think the Marquette had game in hand, but him getting that technical at the very end of the game, like, what are we doing here, man? What are we doing here? So, Todd Golden gotta, don't get too much in the game. Don't feed into the crowd. Just coach your game. Take it each game at a time, and you got a good chance to repeat. In Michigan, I've had to choose the weakest of the 1 seeds is Michigan, in my opinion. Dusty May, in charge, first time in the number 1 seed in a big time spot here. I was kind of curious how he would do this first time around. Not saying he could go all the way and win it. Not saying that. But, first time number 1 seed at Michigan, high expectations. We'll see how things, come for them. And also, we saw in that Purdue game early today, if you get ahead of this team, you know, and keep guys like Mara on the bench and whatnot, and trying to play catch up, you got a good chance to win the game. So once we dive into brackets, stuff like that, you know, in certain matchups, you know, we'll see, you know, if some of these teams get eclipsed or whatnot.
Hey, well, I got some for you. What do you think about Miami, Ohio having to play in that play-in game?
I'll let you go first, D-Lock. What you think about that?
I mean, the season that they had wasn't too bad, but like we talked about, to get in this tournament, we got some really good teams in this tournament. Really, really good teams. And I think conference play plays a huge deal. You know, so as we being SEC guys, we're always talk about how the SEC is the toughest conference. So when you take a lot of those teams and you put them in the conference, somebody has to fall for it, and not somebody got to be in a play-in, right? So I think that is one thing. We also talk about it with even college football sometimes with the college football playoffs. When people make some of those decisions, they're looking at that schedule. And then somebody has to fall for hell. Your schedule is not as tough as Duke, or it's not as tough as Florida or Alabama. So even though their record might be better or is equal, we're going to take the team with the tougher schedule. So Miami, Ohio has to be the team that got to take. Oh man, and that's why we see teams. I'm not sure we see a lot more conference move soon. Teams move into different conferences, but that's why they move into some of these other conferences, because they want to say, well, hey, this is my resume here. I played, you know, this team, that team, this team, you know, so they want to say that, because obviously we see what happens when you don't have that right now. Now it could be more motivation, but hell, now I got to go through this play-in just to get a chance. But my record shows otherwise.
Yeah, I know.
Right.
Perfect season. Only the fourth team in NCAA history to do that. And then they lose, you know, to UMass in the conference tournament. And that carried that much weight that they're going to have to play SMU. In a play-in game, and SMU is no slouch either at an 11 seed. That's going to be a really good game. I think there's a good chance whoever wins that game could win their first round matchup. Those 11-5s are always crazy in the first round, or the 11-6s. I'm sorry.
I just think that, you know, just looking at their schedule, and that's probably what a lot of people are thinking.
Yeah.
Like, man, y'all ain't really played, and then you take a loss at the end of the season. Oh yeah, like you said, you can't lose at where you lose does make an impact.
Yeah,
you know, they beat this same team earlier, but then you lose to them later when they're picking who's going to be in this tournament. Oh man, well right now I'm seeing these teams, you're blowing them out by 30, by 40, by 50, or you got some close games, but there's literally not that many people on this schedule that you could say, well, hey, they deserve to be in. So it just made it tough. But I mean, now you going there with a chip on your shoulder, right? You know, we've seen in the tournament so many years of a Cinderella team. Can they be it if they get in? But the question is that big if. That's the part that they don't want to deal with.
Yeah, we saw
real quick
Maryland,
for me,
Baltimore County.
Real quick for me from Miami, Ohio. You know, you saw some of the tea leaves like late in the regular season that they may have to do extra to get in or there and make the conference win the conference tournament, which I still think is BS that they had to win the conference tournament to get in. You play who you play, like D-Lock alluded to. You play who you play. I mean, you can't do. I mean, you play, you know, a mid-major conference. You know, I looked at the schedule beforehand last week. You know, like it is who it is. It is who you play. Nothing you can do about it. But you know, to kind of punish him for that, because how many teams we see go undefeated in the regular season? Hell, the past 5 years, not much, not many. So to kind of punish them, you know, for that, and I know, in the regular season they kind of struggle against some teams and going to overtime to win some games. And shout out to Frank Martin. Didn't know he was coaching at UMass, but anyways, them losing to UMass, I was like, damn, that's kind of the worst thing for them. But I'm glad they got in. To have them go play into the tournament, I think it's kind of baloney to me, because I think you know, winning 30+ games, one loss, that should get you in anywhere. And compared to some of these teams that they trying to squeeze in, Auburn,
Right.
And Oklahoma. Trying to squeeze those teams in, and look how they played throughout their conference. And like Oklahoma started off very, very well. It kind of went down again like last year. We talked about it on the show last year. Auburn made the Final Four last year, kept some of the same roster, but start off well for the most part at the beginning of the year, but then to Miami, how to be kind of hanging on the thread, I think it's kind of BS in my humble opinion.
Agree.
Yeah, peaking.
All right, fellas, let's go through this brackets real quick. East Regional. Number 1, Duke. 2, UConn. 3, Michigan State. 4, Kansas. The top 4 seeds. Any disagreements there on the top 4 in the East?
No, I think that's good. I mean, I probably could say something about Louisville, but those 4 is without question.
Yeah, I think those 4 are legitimate. But top 4 teams of the list of teams of the 16 in that region. It's favorable to Duke. I mean, you do have UConn, you do have Michigan State that you'll end up with an Elite 8 matchup if those 2 teams advance. But I don't know. I mean, I really don't see any surprises. I think every top team can win. St. John's, Northern Iowa, those 12-5 games are always toss-ups. So I don't see many upsets in that bracket.
I know Mark is in the chat right now. Marcus, I want you to know. I want you to type in. Are you scared of this bracket? Because this bracket is pretty damn heavy.
It is.
You got Duke versus Siena, led by Jerry McNamara, who maybe after this game maybe taking the Syracuse job. Maybe not. Brian Hodgson could be in the run as well. That's something to keep an eye on. Number 8, Ohio State versus number 9 TCU. So that's 2 bowl teams playing 8 and 9. Number 5, St. John's, winners of the Big East tournament versus number 12, Northern Iowa. Let me pause right here. 2 things, fellas, I want to ask y'all. If UConn would have won a Big East tournament, would they have been a number 1 seed in y'all's eyes?
No, I don't know who they would have beaten out. It would have come down to probably Michigan and between Michigan and Florida, and I don't think UConn was deserving of a number 1 over either of those 2.
And that's the only reason why I said, as much as I'm a diehard Gator fan, I've been that since forever, even though I'm a Florida State alumni. But that loss at the bottom against Vandy now, if UConn did possibly, now we're like, oh, do we consider them number 1? But it's because of the Florida loss, not because it was deserving to UConn. It's just now you're like, well, damn, do we consider UConn? So again, I think I don't think there's no mistakes in this bracket, but I just think sometimes those losses at the wrong time could make, you look at those number 1 seeds like, well, damn, who do we put number 1? Had they get those right wins at the right time. And that's why, I keep going back to it about the peaking thing, is because you want to go and put the teams, in my opinion, that are number 1, that are on a roll, right? It makes you think, once they take a loss or 2, it's like, oh crap, well, do they deserve this? Like, what, and depending on who they lose to, that's another thing. But in my eyes, I think that, as we said, Florida does, those number 1 seed, they've earned it. The season resume is what it is.
I think for me, this is my opinion. I think UConn would have won. I think, the way Sunday played out, Michigan, losing out, Florida then making the SEC tournament final. I think they would have started UConn in.
Yeah.
But I think, one thing you can bring up, the Big East, which is kind of just 1 and 2, St. John's and UConn for most of the year. And then the rest of the Big East, when we're talking about the big disappointment this year, Creighton was a disappointment. Providence, Kim English, he's gone, disappointment. Xavier, disappointment. So the Big East, you kind of look at everything in the scope. Yeah, those 2 teams are strong, but everybody else is kind of like down this year. But
yeah, I mean they did get Villanova in there as a 7.
True.
Villanova's always a tough out as well. Yeah, but the Big East was down overall as a conference this year.
So let's dive into this matchups real quick. In this part of the bracket, who do y'all see coming out of this region right here? This part of the region right here in the East. You got Kansas versus Cal Baptist. First time in the tournament for Cal Baptist. Kansas, who's kind of been a story in college basketball. Derek Pearson been injured for most of the year. Louisville, versus South Florida. Brian Hodgson, a coach on the rise, because South Florida upset Louisville in that matchup. So a lot of intriguing variables right here. Freddie, I'll let you go first. Who makes it to the Sweet 16 out of this group here?
Well, obviously Duke, right? And who they end up? Let me pull up the bracket here to see who they will end up playing. So, yeah, I think it's going to be probably Duke and Kansas. And I don't like taking Kansas, but if they have to end up playing St. John's to get there, I think Kansas can beat St. John's. And then you're going to have Duke, Kansas matchup in the Sweet 16, right?
Check it right. Let me double check my back real quick. Yeah, you will have Duke and Kansas potentially in the Sweet 16. But St. John's, oh man, that's
if they could roll like they beat UConn by 20 the other day to win the Big East championship. If they can play that same style, they can obviously give Kansas fits.
A run. Yeah.
But one thing when it comes down to the NCAA tournament, and I like to dive in and do a little bit of gambling and stuff like that. I always bet the coaches. Who's the better coach? And I'm gonna take Bill Self 9 times out of 10 if it came down to it.
D-Lock, your thoughts real quick.
I mean, I think that's what I'm looking at now is that St. John's and Kansas. That is a tough matchup. But coaching does play a hell of a part. Me being the coach, but I think Kansas and Duke do make it. I tell you a team I think that may try to make things tough. Ohio State, and the reason why is because again they are one of those teams that you don't want to play in the tournament. They just are a team that they're gonna give you a run. They're a team that has the experience and the history of making good runs in the tournament. Now, they're going to have to play Duke. So I think that's purely going to be a tough matchup. But if there is any type of upset or if anybody can kind of ruin the Duke and Kansas Sweet 16 matchup, I think it'll be Ohio State.
That's a great matchup. You got Bruce Thornton going against Boozer, and Thornton's a guy who can easily take your team, and you could ride him the entire game to a victory. And Ohio State might have to do that.
Because right now, we obviously Duke is number one. No, I like seeing the great teams continue to be great players, but there's always one sleeper somewhere that can do something, So for me, Duke and Kansas, but if I've ever felt a bracket out, just to throw everything off, I'll put Ohio State in the Sweet 16 just to see if it happens. You know how it shows those percentages? It says one team wins, and like literally 99% of people brackets are wrong. That 1% would be a bracket I throw in that has Ohio State beating Duke.
Bill Self over Petrino. Yeah. I'm going with Bill Self. I'm sorry.
I got Marcus heated. Oh, y'all got Marcus heated. Woo! Oh man, y'all got him heated right now. Real quick for me on this side of the bracket, real quick. I think TCU will beat Ohio State. I just think they're the stronger team. I think, if St. John's and Kansas meet, and that's if, I'm kind of curious, how they're going to play Darren Peterson. Because I think, I'm not saying, not Cal, but Pertino's going to throw everything at him, but he's going to make his life a living hell in that matchup. And the way Peterson has been playing this year, it's been solid. But, it's not like, everybody's kind of anointing him the number 1 overall pick, since August. That argument's kind of slipped away, which we'll talk about here down the road here in a little bit. Down the line here. But, the way Kansas has been playing, it's kind of been yo-yo. And then you got this tough-minded team, Rick Pitino team that's probably looking like, damn, we're higher than 4. Higher than 5. This team right here been up and down all year for the most part, and they're right ahead of us. Let's put the clamps on them, whoop their ass, and get to the Sweet 16.
And then you have your sights on Duke.
And then you got your sights on Duke.
Yeah.
Which that's gonna be a hell of a matchup. St. John's and Duke meet, and how that goes. But I think the interesting matchup, South Florida and Louisville. South Florida wins. I think Brian Hodgson, his profile, like I say, goes up. And Siena, if they play tough with Duke, Jerry McNamara, his profile goes up. And you got both of those guys whose names being rumored for the Syracuse job, which is a very prime job in the ACC. And you got an alumni and a guy who used to be a coach around the area. So I think this area right here has got a lot to prove and a lot, ramifications, how things play out for the future. Because if Kansas kind of go out in the second round, you pay all this money to Peterson, you got nothing to show for it.
Yeah.
If Duke somehow go out early, all that money and convincing, the brothers to go there, nothing to show for it after the strong year. So I think this part of the bracket right here is going to be kind of determine, who may be the champion or not. Not saying Duke, but I think if you come out this side, whoever come out this side could make life easier or harder for the other teams in the upper brackets.
Yeah, I agree.
And kind of finish up this side, the bracket, the East bracket. Michigan State versus number 14 North Dakota State. Number 7 UCLA versus UCF. Shout out to Johnny Dawkins. And number 2 UConn versus Furman. Y'all thoughts on this part of the bracket here?
I really like USF over Louisville. They averaged more points a game. Louisville kind of struggled, didn't play that well against Miami. And on the other side, though, USF, every game they've played over the last 2 or 3 weeks, they've won by double digits. So they're on a roll right now. They can put up points. This is a really exciting game. Probably one of the most intriguing matchups in that East Regional.
Mm-hmm.
I know you new to us, Freddie. I can't stand Mick Cronin.
Neither can I.
Everybody, I'll subject for a little bit. Everybody talking about one of these basketball coaches back in suits and all that shit because they show leadership. How many years we seen these dudes in suits, and a lot of dudes don't show no freaking leaderships. Mick Cronin's one of them.
100%. I cannot stand the guy. I never liked him. I thought it was a horrible decision when UCLA brought him in. Obviously, they had a couple of good runs. He's not a guy. He's not a coach. If I was a player that I would want to be playing for, that's for sure. I don't like his style. I don't like his attitude. You saw what happened earlier in the season when he removed his own player from the game. I don't know. I'd love nothing more for them to get upset in the first round as well.
And then they come in with some injuries to themselves. So I was like, it's tough to put them if those guys don't play. But
yeah, I mean, they're going to have to really ride Bilodeau the whole way. Their guard play isn't as strong as it has been in years past. And I think Folks for USF could have a field day against that UCLA defense.
D-Lock, your thoughts on this bottom part of the bracket? Who come out clean to the Sweet 16 in your eyes?
I think it's UConn.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's clear. Again, I continue sticking to, who comes in and has a history of playing good in the tournament. And I think UConn is more than ready. Looking at who they're gonna be playing against. I mean, I don't obviously Furman. I think they'll definitely beat them. I think UCLA, UCF, doesn't matter between those two that do something. But I think UConn would be tough. Now, if USF could pull off that upset, we know what happens when we see upsets, right? Teams get motivated, their confidence build. Could they beat Louisville and come back and show something to Michigan State, right? That's another team that we know that comes into the tournament with the history and have these high expectations. But also you run into a team that has their head caught on fire and they just beat, a number 16. Now they're like, okay, well, if we just got this win, let's see, do we got a chance to get another? So to me, I just think at the bottom, I think with UConn is going to be ready. I actually believe that UConn, when it's all said and done, and this side is going to give Duke the most problems. If anybody, I think it's going to be UConn. But if there is an upset, I can see USF going on the road.
Okay. At least beat UCLA.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll get past UConn, but
No.
And it comes down to me that the four teams that are going to make the Sweet 16 have the four best coaches, I think, again. Regardless, Petrino, obviously, I like him, but you got Shire and Bill Self in the upper half, and then you'll have Tom Izzo and Dan Hurley in the bottom half. That's fantastic coaching right there. That's what you want to see. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what we're going to end up getting, the top four teams in the East all advancing.
I think for me, the upset, if I'm looking at this region right now, I'll make this quick. Sometimes Michigan State, when they're supposed to win, sometimes they go out pretty quickly.
That is true.
It's happened over the years. Middle Tennessee, that's the top of my head, and a couple more over the years. So over the years, it's like, damn, dog, I fell the bracket. Y'all supposed to go to at least Elite 8, Final 4. Mm-hmm. For some reason or another, y'all just get tripped up for whatever reason. I'm not saying it's going to happen against North Dakota State, but Michigan State kind of good for that.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, UCLA, Mick Cronin, I never like to do since Cincinnati. But I think they'll beat UCF. I think they will. But once they get matched up with UConn, then that's a wrap for them.
Yeah.
I really like Michigan State. I think guard play is huge when it comes down to these tournament games. If you have a guy who's outstanding dishing the ball, low turnovers, and can also score, Jeremy Fears is a guy who's scary with Michigan State. And he can go on a 10-assist game. He can distribute the ball. And if you have your bigs make big shots and sink their free throws, that's where it comes down. And I think that's why Michigan State can have an upper hand. If they played UConn in that Sweet 16 matchup, I think guard play is going to be huge.
So, fellas, who comes out between the two of y'all? Who comes out in the East in y'all's eyes?
I'll go
You want me to go? I'm gonna go bold. I'm gonna stick to UConn. That's gonna be very tough. But I think, like you said, it does come down to coaching, right? A big deal when it comes down to coaching. I think that Duke. I think it's gonna come down to those two. I just feel like UConn they're gonna find a way. It's gonna come down to maybe 2 or 3 possessions. One mistake, one turnover, something simple like that. But I guess I'm being a little different. I told you when I make my bracket, it's gonna have some picks that's a little a little different. But I think it's gonna be close. Duke is obviously the team that everybody has these expectations for, but also you got those number 2 teams, number 3, number 5 teams that are thinking the same thing. Well, hell, we supposed to be mentioned with or better than, and I think that's gonna get UConn going. Now, I think obviously UConn's ride is a little easier, I believe, for Duke in those games. I think Michigan State is going to be pretty tough, but you're looking at Kansas and possibly St. John's, something like that for Duke. But I think Duke goes to I think Duke makes it out big time.
Freddie, what about you?
Yeah, I think Duke is the strongest team of the bunch, and I think they have the more favorable matchups on that top side. I mean, regardless if it's St. John's or Kansas, they're going to have their hands full. It's going to be a good game. Duke is just fundamentally sound, much better team. I like Duke, and I think they can easily get, not easily, but I do think their road to the Final Four is looking pretty solid right now, looking at this bracket from what it is.
Yeah.
Real quick for me, I just got Duke. I think they've been one of the strongest teams all year. UConn, granted, they've been strong, but they kind of been tripped up a couple times, and like I said, coaching matters. And hopefully Dan Hurley don't kind of be an enemy his own self, all said things done in a tight game against Duke in the Elite Eight, or, in the Sweet 16 going against Michigan State.
Yeah.
You don't be an enemy of your own self. So I got Duke come out this bracket, and, Boozer, going to make a case for himself for the number 1 overall pick. Well said and done.
I agree.
Moving on to the South Regional, fellas. We'll make this quick. South Regional, Florida, number 1. Houston, number 2 seed. 3, Illinois. 4, Nebraska. Y'all thoughts on the top 4 seeds in the South region?
Not bad.
Default.
Not bad. I think, again, like I said, I think that loss to Vandy kind of had me shaking a little bit, but Houston is going to be tough. They're going to be tough, big time. But now Florida has a chance to face Vandy again.
They do. Yep.
So you're going to get that chance. Now, does Vandy look at it like, well, hell, we beat these guys before? Their confidence is going to be up there. Or does Florida say, well, yeah, we got to kick their ass because, we lost them in the SEC tournament. So who uses what as a chip on their shoulder? But I think the top 4 is good, especially a team to definitely watch out for is Illinois.
Yeah. Illinois. I think the top, Florida again looks good. This sets up nicely for them. They'll have a matchup probably against I don't know, Clemson, or Clemson, Iowa. It's a coin flip as to who wins that game. It looks to me like Vanderbilt should get past McNeese State, but you never know. Those 12-5 matchups can always throw it out there. And that loss that Vandy had today could help them as well. Just like Florida's loss may be beneficial to them. A team I really like is Nebraska. I think Nebraska is tough. I think they had an up and down season, a really good stretch for a while. And they kind of, checked up a little bit, but they've got a lot of guys with leadership, and they've got a lot of guys with experience in tournament games. Rink Mast, Peyton Sadford. They've got guys that have been there before, and Hoiberg, another great player as well. I really like Nebraska. They could be a team that can go on a run and be a fun team to watch. On the bottom half, Illinois. I think we're going to see Illinois and Houston, and then Houston advancing.
Real quick for me, I think Florida is no surprise here. Houston, they'll be riding a lot on Fleming to kind of carry the scoring load for them. The freshman for San Antonio, Kingston Fleming, I think going to depend on him to score a lot to get him by this tournament. And I'm not saying the kid can do it, but his game style don't warrant, hey, give you the ball, take us all the way. Now, on the other hand, number 3, Illinois, Keaton Wagler, a kid that's kind of wasn't recruited heavily out of high school. His big major offer was from Illinois, has really kind of shot the boards and played himself into a lottery pick for the draft. And he's talking about a guy that can carry the scoring load. I think he really showed that this year, especially against the Purdue game earlier this year, in which he could have maybe went to 50, but I think he just ran out of gas trying to score on Purdue. But I think that's a kid that you got to watch out come tournament time. Can him, Stojakovic, and those older, post guys, can they find him?
Yeah, Boswell. Yeah, with him and Boswell, I think they got a good tandem.
So those guys right there in the post can help shoulder some of the scoring. I think they can go a long way for them. And for Nebraska, as a person who used to live out there, Hoiberg got them playing very well. And I think they kind of be itching for this men's program for years. I was telling D-Locke, I've been telling D-Locke this for the past couple years or so. The way they kind of held themselves in the state in terms of players and stuff like that really kind of shot themselves in the foot as a program.
Right.
Not keeping in-state guys there. And then a lot of those guys, especially with Dana Altman was there, got their hooks on these lot of guys I played with in the 7th and 8th grade, built their relationship with them. They go to Creighton and now don't go to Nebraska. And then for years, Nebraska missed out on a lot of talent. Year or two, Creighton, other schools in the Missouri Valley, Big 12 and stuff like that. Now, fast forward now, get some of those kids to come in and stay, NIL, all that stuff. Now you finally seeing the fruits of that labor. Now, can Fred Hoiberg keep this success going? That's a bigger question. Because Creighton's not going to have another down year. And you compete them with talent, all that stuff in that state. So you Nebraska, great job for them getting the 4 seed, but you got to keep this sustained success going.
Yeah, I think we're seeing the start of their program on the uptrend.
And go through this bracket real quick, fellas. Number 1, Florida versus Prairie View. We'll play against the winner between Prairie View, A&M, and Lehigh. Number 8, Clemson versus Iowa, back in the tournament. Number 5, Vanderbilt versus McNeese State. Number 4, Nebraska versus Troy. That's a matchup to watch out there. And number 6, North Carolina, without Caleb Wilson in this tournament stretch, versus VCU for winners of the A10. D-Locke, your Florida Gators may have a cakewalk to the Elite 8. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, being that number 1 team, the target is on your back, so you're going to get the best from every team that you play. But I think they will be fine. My biggest thing is, the team that could have did some, obviously North Carolina, but Caleb was, Caleb is not there. So now that he's not there, that number 6 that they had probably drops down. They're not going to be that same team.
Yeah, Yeah, you're losing a guy with almost 20 points and 10 rebounds a game.
Mhm.
That's huge for Carolina.
Yeah, you lose somebody like that plays. Now you got to asking others to step up. So, but I think my biggest thought behind this is what happens when they do have that match, that rematch with Vandy, and if it happens. Now, can Vandy get to play them? Do we see Vandy get past Nebraska? That's going to be tough. So, to me, I think Florida should be fine, especially now. Like I said, you got your ass up to Vandy, right? And those two teams don't like each other. Hell, and even in football, it is tough. For all the years I've watched, it is very tough for Florida to play in Nashville. Those Florida and Vandy games on the football field is hell, right? For some reason, the Vandy team that's probably not doesn't have that top tier roster is showing up and playing tough against Florida. So it's just carried on to basketball. So to me, I think Florida do get to the Elite Eight, but they're gonna have to. They took a loss, I guess, that they needed to give them that little bit more motivation.
Real quick for me, I got Florida make it to the Sweet 16 to the Elite Eight. Vanderbilt, if they meet Vanderbilt along the way, that's going to be another tough matchup that they had to exercise some demons through. Troy in Nebraska, that's something to watch out for because Troy is a very tough team. And I don't think that people should overlook that, in my humble opinion. So I'm not saying Nebraska will lose that game, but I think it's one of those games that, don't put your eggs on one basket in Nebraska to win. And North Carolina, VCU, damn, I hate seeing Caleb Wilson going out.
Yeah.
I think North Carolina wins at least one game and then they're done.
Yeah, I think it'll be a good game with them and VCU. I wouldn't be surprised if VCU finds a way to beat them.
It could happen.
I think the one upset we're going to see is McNeese State beating Vanderbilt. I'm going to call it. Think about this. McNeese, this is their third straight year in the NCAA tournament. They've been here. They were here in 24 and in 25, now again in 26. For a small school like that, they could rally the troops and do something to pull off an upset. And they're not even that low of a seed. They're a 12 seed. So McNeese is a very good team. And I would not be surprised if they can shut down Vanderbilt. Both teams can put up points. I expect this to be a high scoring game. And I think whoever shoots the three ball the best is going to win that one. And I think McNeese is going to win.
Ooh. So
throwing it out there, man. You gotta throw an upset in there, right?
I tell you, I would like it.
So let's finish off the rest of this bracket right here real quick before we take our first break real quick. Number 3, Illinois versus Penn. Number 7, St. Mary's versus number 10, Texas A&M. Buckyball in the tournament. And number 2, Houston versus Idaho. Fellas, Houston, Illinois seemed like a foregone conclusion to make the Sweet 16, right?
I agree.
Yeah. Think of St. Mary's, but no.
That one, the St. Mary's and Texas A&M, that's like, like if you fill multiple brackets out, you might do one St. Mary's and then do the other one Texas A&M.
You're right.
Yeah.
I'm not as high on St. Mary's this year as I have been over the last, few teams that they've had in the last 10 years. I don't think this year's St. Mary's team is as strong as they've had, but I do think that they can possibly get past A&M, but then their run would end right after that.
Yeah. That's why I was saying both of them. I was trying to think of a way to put St. Mary in there, but they're not getting past Houston. Neither.
Neither.
I just don't see it. That'd be tough.
And then Illinois, they should get past Penn, who won against Yale today in the overtime to win the Ivy League championship, but I don't think.
And that's what make injuries just impact the game, man. Like, if you'd have had North Carolina with their top guy, this matchup between North Carolina and Illinois is a totally different conversation that we're having. But, you lose a guy that, like you said, is leading your team and scoring. Like, that's not going to be the same team. So now we're saying, well, hell, it's basically a shoe-in for Illinois. Now, North Carolina could, push them a little bit, but I think they're missing guys going to show some point in the game, and Illinois takes over.
Going to the chat real quick before we take our break. Mark is saying, I might take VCU over UNC. That's one of those upsets to kind of keep an eye on without Caleb Wilson. And then I also say this. If UNC do lose that matchup in the first round, Herbert Davis' hot seat for next year is going to be hot.
Yeah.
I know he's Roy's boy, but he's going to be hot come next year if they lose that game. So I think that's another storyline to keep an eye on right there. And then he also says, I'm taking Texas A&M over St. Mary's. So, I think a lot of people, that's one's going to be alternating. That's one you probably be thinking about switching the last minute. Like, yeah, you can go either way on that matchup there, all that good stuff. But let's take a break real quick, fellas. On the other side of things, we'll go to the Midwest, then finish off the West, and then give our championship predictions. But this is Fast Break here for iSports Sports Radio. You're ready for Sports, and we'll catch you on the other side.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the iSports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop, including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at iSports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making iSports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. This is Fast Break here on iSports Radio. Your direct feed of all sports. Selection Sunday is coming and gone. The tournament brackets are set. If you are new to here, got a lot of new viewers here, do follow iSports Radio on all your social media feeds. That's this ticker going across right now in front of your screen. X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. Subscribe to that YouTube channel. Once we go live here every Sunday, you can hit that little bell notification. Once we go live, we'll get us right in front of you for a 1.5 hour talk of basketball. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. The road to 1K, it's on the road right now upon us. So hit that subscribe button and follow us here at the network. All right, fellas. We left the South Regional. Now we're going to the Midwest. Top seed, Michigan, led by Dusty May, did a great job all year. Number 2, Iowa State. Number 3, Virginia. Bounce back year for them after Tony Bennett just kind of up and quit and retired and said the hell with this. And then number 4, Alabama, to round out the top 4 there. Y'all thoughts on the top 4 in the Midwest?
Not bad. I mean, I think only team that I think that could have been considered in the top 4 was Texas Tech.
Over Alabama?
That is, yeah.
That Bama loss to Mississippi was horrible the other night.
Oh, don't get me started on that.
That was horrible. You know what? I'm a big Bama fan because they got a guy, Latrell Wrightsell, who transferred from Cal State Fullerton, which is down the street, close to where my dad went to school. And I've been following Cal State Fullerton basketball since I was a kid. So I always root for him. He's been averaging about 4.5 3-pointers a game. He didn't even hit one the other night. And that Alabama team could be so good when they're on fire, but then they could be so bad when they're cold. I think Texas Tech should have been a higher seed than them.
I think the thing that hurts Texas Tech is JT Toppin being out.
Yep.
I think that's the only thing. If he was still playing, I think y'all probably been right. They'd probably been over Alabama, and Toppin and Texas Tech probably been playing for the Big 12 title. Maybe not. I don't know. But yeah, Alabama losing to Ole Miss. That pissed me off. I mean, it's not the group right here, but some of the players are still there and all that. But them losing to Ole Miss probably did not help their seeding chances. And I saw on X that they know saying that none of the players thought they should be a 4 seed. The coaching staff didn't think they would be a 4 seed. Well, dog, when you lose to Ole Miss the first game of the tournament, that's what happens.
Yeah.
Ole Miss leads majority of the game. That's what happens.
Yep. I agree. Everybody else was good. I mean, Virginia with a really good run took Duke to the end in the ACC tournament. I think they're deserving of a 3. Virginia's always tough when it comes to the tournament time. I don't have any problems with them. And Iowa State, they could have. They played themselves out of being a number 1, I think. If they had beaten Arizona in that later game in the season, I think they would have been in the conversation for number 1.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and dive into the bracket real quick. Number 1, Michigan versus the winner of UMBC and Howard. So 2 Maryland schools or that DMV schools going at it to play Michigan, which I think that's kind of horse hockey. Number 8, Georgia, and is an at-large team versus number 9, St. Louis. Number 5, Texas Tech versus number 12, Akron. Number 4, Alabama versus Hofstra. Shout out to Speedy Claxton. And number 6, Tennessee versus number 1, who face number 11 team between SMU and the very debated Miami of Ohio. Y'all's thoughts on this part of the bracket in the Midwest region?
I think it's pretty straightforward. Michigan, probably Georgia, Texas Tech, and Alabama. And then I don't know, I think the winner of the SMU Miami Ohio game could beat Tennessee. I don't know. But remember, UMBC, they are the only number 16 team to ever win a tournament game. They beat Virginia a few years ago. And I don't think they're going to do the same thing against Michigan.
Yeah.
They'll get rolled. But no, you can never throw them out. But yeah, I really don't see many upsets on this half.
I think so. I went back and looked at Texas Tech's schedule. Them last 3 losses hurt them. But if you look at some of these wins, they beat Duke.
Yeah.
So they beat Houston. So they beat Arizona. So you got some valid, very good wins on this schedule. Very good wins. I think that Michigan will be fine. But I think the tough part of this bracket is Texas Tech, Akron, and Alabama. I think that is going to be. I think Texas Tech and Alabama meet up. I think whoever wins that game gives Michigan problems. I just think that, looking at them, like, damn, like Texas Tech got some key wins, some really good wins.
Really good wins.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So now for Tennessee, I'm hoping. Went there for 2 years, so know what ball for life means with that. But Miami, Ohio, they get in. I think they're going to be a team that's going to be highly motivated too. So I could see a possible upset there.
Mm-hmm.
But either team's going to have to run to Virginia. I mean, I'm not going to say they're up there with Houston, but I don't see Tennessee beating Virginia.
I don't.
Yeah. I think Miami, Ohio is going to be a team that's going to play a huge role. Maybe they possibly can sneak in a good game against Tennessee. But either way, Virginia is going to be tough. Very interested to see what Kentucky does because we know their history through tournaments, the players that come out of Kentucky. But, for me, I think I think the team that makes it to the Final Four is going to be between 3 teams: Michigan, Texas Tech, and Alabama.
So you don't think Iowa State gets in?
I think they're going to be tough. I mean, obviously, they played great. It's just now looking at, obviously, I think Michigan is going to have a hell of a run, but
they are.
I think that Texas Tech and Alabama game is going to be crucial. I think those are your 4 teams in my mind, that Iowa State, Bama, Texas Tech, and Michigan. I think those 4 are some teams that can really win this bracket. Now, that's me kind of not mentioning Virginia. I think I'm not just trying to go past them. It's just, and that's the thing about, we talk about resumes. If you look at some of these key wins, you're like, damn, like, I mean, Duke only got 2 losses.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, got 2 of them. And Texas Tech handed it one of them. So it makes you really think, okay, if this team could be on fire when they need to, okay, you know what? I'm not shocked. So that's kind of how my thought process is. I'm looking back at the history. Yeah, the team that we all see as the best team in this bracket, they went toe-to-toe with. And as a coach, that's what I would be telling my players. Listen, y'all went toe-to-toe with the best.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody in this bracket, you can go toe-to-toe with. So, like I said, those 4 it's gonna be tough, but this bracket is pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think this is the most interesting bracket too. I think it could really be one of 5 teams that can get out of it, legitimate. Mm-hmm. Anything can happen. Maybe even 6 teams have a chance. But I think what I like and why I think Michigan is going to advance is because they have the bigs and they have a rebounding advantage over anybody else in this side of the bracket. They have 3 guys averaging 7 rebounds a game. I talk about guard play being so significant in tournament games, but also having your bigs, intimidate guys in the paint. You see this with a lot of the smaller schools. They're afraid to go into the paint when they could typically go in their conference games because they don't have the height disadvantage as much, and they can go in for layups. You see that a lot in tournament games where the smaller schools are afraid to go in because they think they're going to get blocked or rejected. And Michigan can eat that up alive. They can defend and they can rebound. And I think that's why Michigan is the best team to come out of here.
Real quick for me, in this region right here, wow, I put this thing here. I think for me, from Michigan, like you mentioned about the size, they got the size to kind of dominate this part of the region. And if they get matched up with Texas Tech or Alabama in the Sweet 16, Amara's 6'3" and should dominate down low if they match up against Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
And, as an Alabama fan, the post play this year I don't say been non-existent, but it's just like Aiden Terrell have moments, but it's not enough, like you should see. And the bench, like once you get past Terrell, the big man, after that, you really got no bench for Alabama in terms size-wise. I mean, you got Noah Williamson, who you got from Bucknell, but I just think he's been like the wrong fit in this system. And he's kind of been crucified for that by the Alabama fans, which is not right, in my humble opinion. But, Alabama, like, they put it on, they could put it on. It pissed me off that Fowler didn't take that shot to win in regulation against Ole Miss and try to dump it off, and Sherrell got blocked. But just look at the rest of the bracket. Like I said earlier, Miami, Ohio. I think the committee had to put him somewhere and then make him, play a tough team in a sense to make them, work their way into the tournament. Hofstra, shout out to Speedy Claxton. I think, Alabama should get past that one. Texas Tech should get past Akron. St. Louis will beat Georgia.
Okay.
Georgia, Mike White, how can I put it? He's one of those coaches that's all right, but he's not going to take you to the promised land. And we saw what he did in Florida over the past few years. It's just like he made them mid. And then Todd Golden comes in, turns it around, and he's winning the championship in year 2.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
And now Mike White's in Georgia, and Georgia's kind of been like a mid-pro basketball program for a good while. And he's kind of stuck in neutral. There's no game, nothing like that. So I'm not sure it was beating Georgia.
I could see that. I could definitely see that. I can also see the first team to score 90 points in that game is going to be the team that wins, because Georgia scores upwards of 90 and St. Louis can score points too. That's going to be one of those fun games, that 8-9 matchup.
And then to kind of finish off the rest of this bracket, fellas, Virginia, number 3 Virginia versus Wright State. Number 7 Kentucky, kind of up and down here for them, versus number 10 Santa Clara. Yeah. And number 2 Iowa State versus Tennessee State. First year coach Nolan Smith getting the Tennessee State team to the tournament first time since I think I read it was 1994. So a very long time. Shout out to Nolan Smith, who probably won't be at Tennessee State very long. But y'all thoughts on this part of the bracket here?
I think that part is, like I said, not to really sleep on Virginia. But I think this is them and Iowa State. That's going to be a good matchup. Again, I don't think Tennessee, SMU, Ohio State beats Virginia. They'll probably blow out Wright State. I am just interested to see what Kentucky does.
Yeah.
I think, we thrive off history and we talk about it with different teams. But we've known the history of Kentucky, the expectation. Although different coaches, cool, I get it. But I think they have a lot of banners, in their arena, a hell of a lot of banners, right? So they have those expectations of being in the Final Four, being in Elite Eight. They're going to have to run to Iowa State. But I want to see that. That's the matchup I'm looking forward to seeing the most this first round is Kentucky and Santa Clara. I want to see what they look like. But I think at the end of the day, Virginia and Iowa State matches up. I think that's going to be a very tough game. And I've seen Virginia a little bit watching ACC being at Pitt. I've seen what they've been doing, but I think Iowa State is definitely going to be tough.
Go ahead, Freddie.
Oh yeah. Iowa State, I think, is the top team in the bottom half of the bracket. Obviously Virginia. I agree. I think Santa Clara, the Kentucky game, has a lot to live up to. And Kentucky's like in the same boat as Georgia. They were both 10-8 in conference play. like 22-10 overall, 21-10, whatever it is. Just mid, man.
Yeah.
Santa Clara, keep in mind, they play Gonzaga and they play St. Mary's twice a year, and they compete with those teams. Those are upper echelon teams. I think Santa Clara can pull this upset off, and I wouldn't be surprised if they do.
You ain't get no disagreement from me. I think Kentucky.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't know. It's just Kentucky. They spend all this money, and they play well in the SEC tournament. They play well enough. But now you're going against a Santa Clara team that, ain't no slouch. And I'm looking at this matchup. Let me pull my stats up real quick. You got this kid Hammond for Santa Clara, 15 points per game, 2 assists, leading the way. Mahi, 13 or 14 points is going to round it up, and 4 rebounds per game. So a lot of scoring there. And just thinking, the way Kentucky's been playing, the way they kind of up and down against certain matchups. I talked about Herbert Davis earlier. If Mark Pope loses this game, he's going to be hot again for Kentucky. And Mark Pope probably wishing he's still at BYU the way they've been spending money on all that stuff the past couple of years. It's like, damn.
Then I came around.
I finally came around. I got to go way over here with more pressure. I could have stayed here in Utah and got the same results.
Yep.
And more money. And get the number 1 overall player in the country come to me as well. So, anyways. Right. But Virginia, I think Virginia, that Iowa State-Virginia match is going to be very interesting how that plays out. I got Iowa State going to the Elite Eight. And I think there'll be a matchup against Michigan.
Oof.
Yeah. I gotta roll with Michigan because this how tough they played all year. When they play other top teams, it's been tough. I mean, they stay with it. And when they supposed to beat teams they're supposed to beat, they beat them. So Iowa State making the Sweet 16 against Michigan. I got Michigan coming out this region.
Same.
What you think, D-Lock?
I always be thinking about the dark horse. So I'm always thinking like what team can really upset. I have Michigan as well. I just think my dark horse is Texas Tech. I don't look at their resume, so I'm like, oh man. But I think Michigan is the clear favorite. But again, I think this is a very good bracket of some teams that when they're playing and we're seeing the games, they're gonna come back and look, well, damn, this team did this, that, and the third, during the season. So but I definitely have Michigan as well.
All right. And to finish it off this bracket, fellas, been a long journey, but the West region, number 1, Arizona. Number 2, Purdue, winners of the Big Ten Conference Tournament. Number 3, Gonzaga. Number 4, Arkansas, winners of the NCAA Championship Tournament. Y'all thoughts on the West top 4, and did the committee get it right?
I guess so. I mean, if you have to throw Arkansas in at a 4, then then it's right. I don't think there's anybody else that fit on this side of the bracket. I mean, BYU is a really good team. They could be dangerous, but they're not any higher. They're not deserving of any higher than a 6. And the same with Wisconsin. They can, play some good basketball, but they're not any higher than Arkansas. I think that those are legit on the top 4.
Yeah. I like BYU. I like AJ. That is what I'm really looking forward to the most in this bracket, in this tournament.
That BYU Gonzaga game.
In the
yeah,
I just right now, I mean, I know we're paying attention to the tournament, but we're also determining who's going to have this number one draft, this number one pick, number one overall pick. We got guys that we're looking at to say, well, can they lead this team far? How far can they take this team? Right? We got Cam Boozer, we got AJ, we got a couple other guys. My eyes is on him. What can he do? But I think the top four is definitely correct.
I think, like I said, Arizona, I think no surprise there. Purdue, them winning the Big Ten championship, I think solidified them. 3 Gonzaga, always been consistent. No arguments there. And Arkansas, the way Arkansas played against, Ole Miss Saturday, I was like, you started looking at like a Coach Calipari special if they lose to like a worse team than you, but they pulled off overtime by the skin of their teeth. And year 2 of Cal and Arkansas, you win the SEC championship. Now can you build momentum towards the tournament, to the bracket and whatnot? I think that's a bigger question. Now, you look at this side of the bracket, Arizona versus Long Island. Shout out to Ross Strickland. Number 8, Villanova versus number 9, Utah State. Number 5, Wisconsin versus number 12, High Point. Second year in a row for the tournament for them. Number 4, Arkansas versus number 13, Hawaii. And number 6, BYU versus the winner of Texas Tech v. North Carolina State. Brady, your thoughts on this side of the bracket and who comes out towards the Elite 8?
For those games there, I think Arizona obviously wins. I think Utah State can beat Villanova. I'm going to go on a limb and say High Point outscores and outshoots Wisconsin. They're a team that averages 90-plus points a game, and those teams are always so dangerous. You said they were there last year. They know what it takes. And if you can get hot, if you can make 3-pointers, anything is possible. So it's another one of those 5-12 matchups. Arkansas and Hawaii. I watched Hawaii the last couple of nights in the Big West tournament because I follow the West Coast games here. Hawaii's not great by any means. The Big West, wasn't the best this year, but Hawaii did come out, but they should get spanked by Arkansas. And then I'm looking forward to the second round matchup between BYU and I'm assuming they're going to get past Texas or NC State. And I'm looking forward to their next matchup when they play Gonzaga.
Yeah, I'm there. I think the same thing with Arizona, Villanova. I think it was a big shocker that Arkansas played very well how they have so far. But they do have the coach that has that history, right?
Yeah.
Other thing we know about Arkansas, I'm pretty sure if you guys been there, nothing's there. There's nothing there but University of Arkansas.
Sure.
So they really pry into their sports, right? They pour a lot into them. So I think we'll get to it. I think Arkansas gets pretty far, in this bracket, man. I really think so. BYU, that's why I said this bracket is loaded as well. BYU and Gonzaga. That game I'll probably find the Buffalo Wild Wings to go watch that. But I think it's gonna be very interesting to see how that plays out. But with those teams, these teams here, you got you some good games, and some very good players we're gonna be watching.
Real quick for me, very interesting, Freddie, that you brought up High Point in Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin win the game, but High Point, like I said, they will score with them. And I mentioned earlier on Nebraska, a guy I went to high school with, Antoine Young, assistant coach at High Point, played at Creighton, point guard. So, 2 years, with that system there with them, High Point, can bring his guard expertise and help, bring High Point over the hump. I doubt it because Wisconsin size and then, Rab for Wisconsin, he got hot. Granted, they lost that game against Michigan, but he got hot at the right time. It's like, damn, if you kind of fell off him a little more, you could have won that game. Arkansas against Hawaii. Darius A-Cup is a dude. We talking about AJ DeMista, Cam Booster, Darren Peterson.
Mm-hmm.
Darius A-Cup is a dude that's played himself into top 5 pick in the NBA draft. He's one of the dudes that's played strong all year and has played himself into top 5 discussion. And I think, his 30-plus point game against Vandy today, I think it's going to carry on against Hawaii. And I think Arkansas is going to ride this young man to at least the Sweet 16. Because you're going to play against an Arizona team that's going to be very tough. And Cal and those type of matchups kind of folds. All that good stuff. I'll finish out here real quick before we get you out, Freddie. Then BYU, they did lose their guard, Sanderson, early in the year to the ACL, which I think kind of hurt their play a little bit, but you kind of saw AJ DeMista rise in his absence and scoring and whatnot. So I got them going a little bit further and all that stuff that most people imagine as well. And then I'll let you go first, Freddie, and the rest of this bracket. We'll get you out of here. Number 3, Gonzaga versus Kennesaw State. Shout out to Antoine Petway. Number 7, Miami of Florida versus number 10, Mizzou. And number 2, Purdue versus Queens out of Charlotte. First year in the tournament for them. Your thoughts on this part of the bracket?
I think this part of the bracket is kind of weak. And to be honest with you, I like Purdue with everybody that they've got back. Fletcher Lawyer and Braden Smith and everybody that they've got. I would be shocked if Purdue doesn't get through to the Elite 8 out of that bottom half of the bracket.
Agree.
What's in you?
I agree. I think. Gonzaga's going to be a tough team. BYU, obviously, AJ can only do so much, right? Like you said, Purdue is loaded back. They are stacked back. Gonzaga is going to be the team that's give Purdue a little bit of a run, but Purdue is top heavy. They are loaded. They're going to be hard for anybody. I definitely see them going to the Elite 8. The question is, who do they play? Which we all know is possibly Arizona, but big chance Arizona. But I think they definitely get the Elite 8 out of that part of the bracket.
Freddie, before you get out of here, I appreciate you joining with us tonight.
Thank you guys for having me.
Of course.
Your Final Four and your championship predictions.
Okay. Oh, man. I'm going out of the East. I'm going to go with Duke. Out of the South, I'm going to go with Houston. Out of the West, I'm going to go with Purdue, and I'm going to go with Michigan. Now, you're going to get Purdue and Michigan. It looks like possibly another matchup. I don't know if that's how it plays out, if it's going to be the Midwest against the West or not. I don't know how that's going to play out, but I can't imagine those guys playing just another epic basketball game together. But yeah, I don't think Arizona, they're the number one seed that I just don't think is going to get by. Obviously, sorry for your Florida Gators. I don't think they're going to make it out as well, but who knows? I'm just throwing it out there. That's what I've got in the championship right now.
All right.
Who do you guys got?
You go first, D-Locke.
Well, I'll go to the East first. Duke is going to be hard, for anybody, but I do have UConn, right? I think UConn is that upset that we see this whole bracket. I don't want to be biased, but it's hard to pick against Florida. Now, I think Houston is going to be a problem. Houston, we have a problem. So they're going to be a problem. But I take Florida in the South. On the West, I'll take a bold prediction here. I'm going to go Arkansas. And I think that run later on definitely is going to give them that confidence. I think I'm also being a little biased because I'm an SEC guy. You win SECs, you're probably going to have a good run later on. But Arizona's going to be tough. But as we talked about, Arizona is that, I guess, that weakest number one team out of all of them. Michigan goes. I don't see Michigan not in the championship game. I think they could play Arkansas, Arizona, whoever. They're going to be there. Florida and UConn. Oh, my God. I think Florida goes back to the championship with a good chance to repeat. Very good chance. That loss that they had, as bad as it was, is going to sting them to where now they're motivated. And obviously, Florida and Michigan is going to be a hell of a matchup. But obviously, being a fan, I think they repeat. I think this is the second Florida team that we see go back to back.
Real quick for me, just doing the bracket right now, Duke coming out the East for me, that's a given for me. For the South, I'm going to be bold in this. I'm going Illinois.
Not a bad pick. Not bad.
In the West, I'm going to go with Arizona.
Okay.
I think they're being consistent. I just going to keep them there. And maybe I think Cole and Pete kind of reignite that pre-lottery talk, beginning of the year to kind of help carry Arizona. Midwest, that's going to be like a tough one to decide. But I'm just going to ride with Michigan because they've been one of the consistent teams all year. So you're looking at Arizona, Michigan, Illinois, and Duke. I'm going to say consistent with this. Duke's going to win the championship. I think John Shire, the past couple of years, he's taken over. He's been close. And I think maybe this is the year he gets past everything and win the NCAA championship. At least they're going to get to the title game. But we kind of been seeing the baby steps getting to the title game. And I think this is the year he closes this out for the Blue Devils and wins his first championship in the catbird seat.
Yeah. I could see that happening. The Boozer brothers, and I think Duke is. If I had to pick the winner to win it all, I think I'm going to go with Duke. And then I would probably say Duke and Michigan are the top two. But,
so,
hey, that's why we let the games play out, and then we crumble up our brackets and we start checking them all off as we start picking all the wrong winners.
Start balling up the pieces of paper. Well, this bracket is wrong. This bracket is wrong.
Yeah. Well, that's fun, man. Hey, thank you guys so much. I've got to bounce, but let's catch up again next week and see how we're after the first weekend of games.
Yes, sir. We appreciate it. Mr. Freddie.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you, sir. D-Log, before we get out of here, this part right here, I want to talk about right here. Shout out to Antoine Petway. Shout out to him. Making the. I texted you because I almost went to that conference USA Championship. I was like, damn, I look at the tickets and why they started at 4:30? Then I look, I was like, oh, they got the women's beforehand. I was like, damn.
Yeah.
I was like, damn, I won't be out there 8 hours.
Yeah, you've been out there for a minute.
Yeah, I was like, all that stuff. So next year when they got out there, I'll try and work a way to get out there next year and whatnot, and find a way to do that. But shout out to him. I made a comment earlier that he should be in line for the Georgia Tech job since they're looking for a new coach, and Kennesaw State fans don't seem too happy about that. So we'll see how that plays out there. Yeah, on the outside of things. Real quick, and I thought I had this up. Let me try to pull it up real quick. Let's see, I can get that up real quick before we get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
Bam Adebayo. That's it. That's the name.
Yes.
We had to squeeze this in. Bam Adebayo scores 83 points against the Washington Wizards. Let me pull that stat line up real quick.
Ridiculous.
Adebayo had 83 points, 20 for 43 from the field, 36-43 from the free throw line. New NBA record for makes and attempts, 7 for 22 for 3, played 42 minutes. D-Locke, your thoughts on Bam Adebayo, 83 points, passing Kobe Bryant. Your thoughts on that night against the Washington Wizards?
Well, the Wizards right now just look horrible. All year they've been looking bad. First of all, putting 30 points in the first quarter should let you know that he's about to go crazy. First quarter, you yourself have 30 points. 30. So now we're saying, hey, well, first thing we're thinking as you text me, well, does LeBron record go down? You know, does this team record go down? It's most points. 61, yeah, look like he's definitely in trouble. Boom, that goes. Then it's like, well, hell, that's gone, but maybe 20-some more points to go in a totally different area. Does he do it? He was on a mission, and dude, I mean, seven 3-pointers. That's 21 points from 3-point land, right? 36 free throws made. So, yes, you know, looking at the end of the game, you start seeing Heat players starting to foul, you know, the Wizards players to get a chance to get the ball back. So clearly we knew where this was going. But I think this probably started to be thought about after the first quarter a little bit, because if you look at the minutes, I mean, Gardner 26, Davion Mitchell 24, Larson 24. There's nobody over here on this team that had north of 35 minutes.
No.
That night. He had 42. So at some point they started to get to that point. But in my opinion, and I think we talked about it before, Duke got 30 points in the first quarter. Y'all both been triple-doubling this dude, tripling him in the second quarter. Make everybody else cook. Tyler Hero's out and the rest of these guys are out. Make all these other players take up some type of scoring. That was not happening.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of still were trying to guard Larson and Gardner. The person that had the most points outside of Bam was Fantasio off the bench with 18. So you got people that's on the court with him. Gardner played 26 minutes and had 4 points. Outside of Fantasio, only 2 other people had double digits. So we're looking at, you know, the fact that they're just letting him do whatever he wants. All these other players can be taking shots, right? But he's taking 43. Y'all gotta start double teaming or tripling. But kudos for Bam. 83 points is 83 points either way, in my opinion. I know this 36 free throws, all the comparison of what Kobe did. Donovan Mitchell, all these other guys have been at 70 and 60. But to get 83, that's a hell of a lot of points, man.
Real quick for me, somebody saying something in the chat real quick. I guess the Finley Chandler 5547, I guess that's coming on late. He asking us how far do you think Duke would go with injuries. I got to win the championship. Just real quick, I got to win the championship. My humble opinion, D-Locke, how far you got Duke going?
They'll get to the Elite Eight.
So we got them pretty deep. And Cam Boozer, strong play, kind of carrying them on the way. I got them over Arizona in the championship game. So kind of rematch of the 2001 national championship, I believe. Yeah, 2001. Duke versus Arizona. Yeah, guys like Gilbert Arenas and Mike Dunleavy, Jay Williams, all those type of guys in that game. Mm-hmm. So I got Duke win the championship. But back to this real quick before we get out of here. When he had the 30-plus in the first quarter, I said, damn, can he beat Bron's record? You know, they were kind of showing the Miami records and all that stuff, D-Wade, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, man, I jump in the second half. I was like, damn. You kind of saw pretty hot in the second half. Like, oh, okay. Taking 3-pointers, driving the lane. And then, like, some point, as a coach, you know, depending on your situation, you kind of, and I told you before we got on the air tonight, you know, at some point, you got to triple team them, hug them, whatever. Don't let them get past you. And let those other guys score within the shot clock. Mm-hmm. Limit the opportunities. I think if they did that in the third quarter, and that's why I think the Wizards coach, Coach Keith, probably be gone after this year because it just sucked.
Yeah.
I think he'd be gone for this year, but it's just like, you don't triple team and stuff like that late in the fourth quarter. Like, then he's already knocking on the door at that point. You might well, I would say let him score on you, but shit. You know, it's just like, what's the point? You did this in the third quarter. Let Davion Mitchell and those other guys score points. Neuter him, do something.
Yeah.
Pull his hands down. Don't let him score at all. You know, say something to Asia Wilson in the front.
For real.
His game. Do something. You know what I'm saying? Just do something. In my eyes. Mm-hmm. Real quick before we get out of here. Do you think it was intentional to get him to the line with the way Miami did? Because Spoelstra said at one point they were going to go for it and all that stuff, and that's the way they did it. Do you think it was intentional the way they got him to 83?
I think him just being aggressive put him, in this position to get to 83 points. 36 free throws is a lot for a team. Hell, he had 36. He's made 36 himself. But I think the thing that got him there was actually the threes. I mean, you got 21 points from three-point land. Yeah. So now obviously it was showing he's going after it. He took 22 threes. Like at this point, I guess we could say 81, 83, 81, 82, 83 was the goal. But hell, I'm looking at the stat line, man. I mean, imagine if he makes 3 more threes. He's in the 90 range now. So could it been intentional? Could he been going for 100? Because at this point, I mean, he took a hell of a lot of shots, man. A hell of a lot of shots. So again, I think over that first quarter, that first half, they starting to see where they're going. Then eventually it was like, okay, yeah, now these people start to get fouled. We trying to get past, 81. And then obviously going to the free throw line, making them two free throws, they took him out. Because now it's like that was eventually the goal. But I definitely think it was something that was thought about over time. Especially your first game, you go for 30. First quarter, you go for 30 points. You putting everything on notice now.
Yeah. I don't think it's intentional, but I think he's trying to get into the record. But I was like, I just think bad coaching on the Wizards' part.
Yeah.
Miami, why not? Why not get him past Kobe, set that record, and let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah.
I will say a lot of good potential came out of it. Shout out to Coach 30 and Mark White out there doing their thing. But this has been our show tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in with us with this bracket breakdown. Shout out to Freddie B for joining us here tonight for our IA Sports Radio. D-Locke, how can people find your social media?
You guys find me at Black-813. Obviously, the tournament's going to get started. So I definitely will be talking about a lot of names coming up. So hopefully my Florida Gators can get it done. Let them know you can find you on the show's page.
You can find the show's page on X/Twitter at FastBreak@IESR. That's FastBreak@IESR. Do follow me at Twitter at Spawn4288. That's Spawn4288. Do subscribe to IA Sports Radio on all your social media feeds, wherever X, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. Subscribe to that YouTube channel. Once we go live, get that little bell notification. You'll see our lovely faces every Sunday at 7 or a little bit after. So do subscribe to the YouTube channel at IA Sports Radio. Next week, once we come on, most of the games will happen this past weekend, the men's and women's. The women's bracket didn't come out till late, so that's why we didn't talk about them. But we'll tweet about them and all that stuff. So do be on the lookout for that. So tune in, ladies and gentlemen, next week, bracket talk. And something big happens in the NBA, we'll talk about that as well. So till then, we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.